People have a real mixed reaction to time limits in games. Some people love the pressure they add to a sequence. Some don't want to deal with them at all. I don't think the difference is so much about timers themselves, but more in how they're used. Some designers use timers in a fine balance, thinking through how they interact with every other mechanic. And some designers slap a big dumb countdown on screen, autofail you when it hits 0, and then go home to their passionless, empty marriage. But just because it's easy to make a bad timer, that doesn't mean they're all bad. The difference between a great and a terrible timer is about subtle details. If you want to add a great time limit to a game, you better get ready to get creative. Maybe it would help if I dredged up, let's say about a dozen examples of good timers. That sounds like an episode to me. Let's talk about how to spice up a time limit. Tick-tock. The countdown is on for this year's Rising Tide Challenge, run by today's sponsor, BlueOceanGames.com. Blue Ocean Games is a new group who got together to make a fund for innovative, early-stage indie games, and they're hosting a new game jam. You and your team can build over the month of May, and you'll be put up for a vote to find the best of the best new indie game pitches. 20 winners are selected from a public vote and a panel of judges, including guest judge Mix and Jam. The winners get a gift card worth up to $500, as well as the big prize, an invite to pitch their game for up to $300,000 in funding. If you're not building a game, you can still head over there at the end of May to vote on participants and help the best rise to the top. The challenge runs the entire month of May, so go to BlueOceanGames.com and sign up now. I'm rooting for you. Thanks to Blue Ocean Games. Alright, why are games messing with time limits anyway? Timers can be a very useful tool, and they always have been, ever since the earliest arcade days. If you were making an arcade game in the 80s, your machine's value to arcade owners was determined by how fast it could grab money from players' pockets. To earn more money, you have to get people to start new games, and that can be a problem if your game is entirely skill-based. If someone's good enough at something like Pac-Man, they could be camped out on the machine for quite a while. People aren't going to stop playing until they lose. So, you've got to make them lose. Guarantee that they lose. Design it so they lose, no matter how good they are. But you don't want to eliminate all the skill. Why would someone bother sticking another quarter in a game that you can't get better at? So ideally, you'd want to make a game with the skill curve to bring in repeat customers, but also guarantee a new game gets played every so often. You see where this is heading. That's right. Like guns. I mean, a timer. One of the earliest books written on video game design talks about that need to make an explicit end state. But a timer can do more than just end the game. If you're a little creative, you can design a timer that keeps the quarters flowing, rewards skillful play, but also helps the player get into the spirit of a game. Take my favorite arcade timer, Crazy Taxi. The loop in Crazy Taxi is dead simple. Pick up a passenger, drive to a 90s brand, and get paid. Repeat until you run out of time. Each passenger needs to travel a different distance to get to their destination. The more green the floating icon is, the further away they want to go. And when you pick someone up, the game adds some time to let you drive there. Now, it's not very much time. If you want to get to the stadium before time runs out, you can't be driving all normal. You're not playing regular taxi. You've got to go. And you've got to go through people. But that's what the game's built for. All the time goes into the same pool. So if you can get to the KFC really fast, you can bank the seconds you didn't use and keep the game going for longer. You even get a bit of a direct time bonus if you get there speedy enough. The timer rewards skillful play, but also puts a cap on how long the game can possibly last, without making it a hard cap. You could imagine a version of Crazy Taxi with no timer. The blatant Crazy Taxi knockoff, The Simpsons Road Rage, had a mode called Sunday Drive, which does that. It's not without its charm, but with no time pressure, there's way less pushing you towards the exciting gameplay the format works best with. Crazy Taxi's timer is the game's centerpiece. The faster you go, the more reckless you are, the harder you push it, the more fun you'll have. Both in the abstract sense, where it's just more fun to drive like that, but also you'll literally have the fun for more time. the timer creates a game that forces you to have the most fun you can. That basic extendable short countdown type of timer comes out of arcades, but it doesn't have to stay there, of course, or even stay in that same genre. Mullet Mad Jack is an indie high-octane boomer shooter with an 80s cyberpunk anime VHS aesthetic and some of that movie Crank mixed in there too. They're going for a lot of things at once. You're climbing a building, 10 roguelike floors at a time, taking out as many evil robot billionaires as you can to try to save an 80s anime damsel and win yourself some new sneakers along the way. Your runs are being live streamed in-universe, with your viewers' entertainment juice literally working as your lifeblood. You have 10 seconds to live, and have to keep adding to that timer by killing robots and getting dopamine from your viewers. Basic kills get you a couple more seconds, but environmental kills are where the real money's made. Throw someone into a fan, or electrical currents, and you get some stylish bonus time. Oh, and you can't bank more than 10 seconds total. So, yeah, keep it up. Each floor is a gauntlet of hallways, and you have to rush forward and find new enemies to get more dopamine. At the end of each floor is a shop full of upgrades to help boost a weapon or gain perks to make things easier, like bonuses for crotch attacks, or slowing down time when you have 3 seconds left. You'll need the perks, because with only 10 seconds, a run can be lost before you even realize it. Each floor is only maybe 30 to 90 seconds long, but you can't waste any of it. As you go up higher in the building, more complex game mechanics get added in, like wall running, or locked doors that you need to shoot open, so the game doesn't get too monotonous. The very strict time limit, the drive to constantly sprint forward, and how a run can end in the blink of an eye make for a uniquely intense game, and it can be straight up exhausting to play. But if you want to play at the extremes of what a timer can be in a game, this is worth studying. The shorter the time limit, the more pressure you add. But not every game is WarioWare. It can start to feel a little absurd to have every timer be super short. But how else could you add pressure to a timer? Well, what if you just add more timers? That's the secret sauce of the run-your-own-restaurant genre. Galaxy Burger can ease you into it. Your job is to juggle a bunch of burger recipes as you cook for aliens in galactic fast food restaurants. A lot of the game is about attention to detail as you build burgers by hand, stacking one ingredient at a time. But for a lot of the steps in the cooking process, you're on the clock. Watching one burger cook is relatively chill, but if you're trying to do a couple orders at once, it gets exponentially more chaotic the more timers you have going, to make sure you don't burn anything, forget a step, or worst of all, send the perfect burger to the wrong customer. Where one timer isn't that big of a deal, a few of the same timers, all running at once, and all running on slightly different schedules, makes you have to quickly juggle priorities, lest you get overwhelmed. At least, that's how it works in most restaurant service games, but in Galaxy Burger specifically, the game isn't really the one pressuring you. The timers are all there, but your customers grade you more on accuracy than speed. In this game, the pressure to do as much as you can at once is all self-imposed. I find it interesting that the game lets you decide how much stress you want to have. If you want chaos, trying to fire 4 huge burgers at once, the game will let you do that. But that's on you. No matter how hard you try to ruin this griddle, no one will yell at you. You can treat it instead like a Zen cooking sim, making cozy burgers for alien cats. And that makes it a very chill game. Galaxy Burger's cute. It's super tactile, and the burgers look pretty good by the time you send them out. But if you want your restaurant game to be a little more of a pressure cooker, try Cook Serve Delicious 2. You're a chef for hire, running the line at one of a few dozen kitchens. You prep food, customize every order, and deliver service with a smile, all by yourself. And make sure to take out the trash while you're at it. This is the fastest paced cooking game I know of. You'll serve 100 people over the course of 10 minutes, and nobody coming in the door has much patience. Each station's timer adds a little pressure, and you can easily have a dozen timers running at once. Timers for customers waiting in line, cooking timers, holding stations where food will go bad after a while, chores timers. You have to address everything yourself before any of it expires and ruins your perfect day. The overlapping timers force you to act as quickly and precisely as you can to not burn food, make people sick, serve uncooked sandwiches, or have customers leave. It sounds impossible, but the game has an incredibly satisfying keyboard control scheme. Type out single letters for each ingredient, shift menus for cooked versus raw components, hit numbers to pick an order to focus on. Every command is one keystroke away. It can be very overwhelming at first, but the keys are coded to ingredient names, and after a few runs, you'll rapidly pick up speed. You'll soon be able to fill an order without thinking about it. The game's very demanding, but it's doable. When you get the prep just right, and you're serving 4 or 5 customers in a lunch rush rapid fire with delicious orders, it's unbelievably satisfying. The flood of timers in these games can crank up the stress to unbelievable levels, but the rush of rapid decision making, prioritization, and perfect execution help create a totally new genre. But not every game idea can handle a zillion timers, and that's fine. You can still have fun with just a single countdown, but you're gonna have to make it feel very important. Timers are supposed to be pressure. They're supposed to be frantic, or at least a little threatening, like a tiny knife. But how important does your game's timer actually feel? The Blob's time limit is not like a knife at all. You start with 10 or so minutes to jump around a level, and you can find all the time extensions you could ever want. It doesn't take nearly that long to finish a level, even if you're a kid. So there's absolutely no pressure to change how you act on account of the timer. It's benign, but then why is it here at all? When a time limit is easy to ignore, it loses the punch it's supposed to have. The timer in most 2D Mario platformers barely factors in while you're playing. Only at 100 seconds, when the music changes, does it make its presence felt. But then, if that earlier part is so ignorable, does it need to be around? New Super Luigi U doesn't think so. All of its stages are designed around a 100-second time limit. Stages are shorter, but significantly tougher. Because of the shorter timer, the platforming challenges tend to be more condensed around the central gimmick. If a stage is based around bullet bills, it has a lot of bullet bills. Or a stage has a lot of geysers. More action and less dawdling. The short timer forces you to commit a little more, which gives the game a stronger identity among the rest of the otherwise kinda samey New Super Mario Bros. Series. But 2D Mario platformers have a pretty rigid formula. New Super Luigi U is making a very small tweak to it. But if you're okay making huge structural changes, you can use a timer to change a series completely. Take Wario Land 4. If you've only played Wario Lands 1 through 3, you are not prepared. Wario Land 4 is a not that unusual platformer built around an out and back level design. Once you enter a level, you're exploring all corners of the stage for treasure, while you search for a special key and this frog hourglass at the far end. You can take all the time you want, but once you hit the hourglass, get ready to run. Wario yells at you to hurry up! And a big countdown appears. Like, really big. Not gonna miss that. The screen shakes, the background distorts, the music shifts, and you've gotta book it, backtracking as fast as you can until you get back to the portal at the start. If the timer hits 0, Wario gets audited. You lose some coins. It's fine. That escape sequence is the game's best draw. The unique structure where you get to puzzle through the level in one direction, then get challenged on the return trip is super fun, and unique for the time. And for the escape, the timer does what a timer does best, adding an element that creates the pressure to perform, and a natural rising action and climax to every level. Wario Land 4 had this design structure all to itself for a pretty long time. There was Wario Land Shake It, but that's about it. But leave it to the indie scene to leap into action. 2 indie studios built 2 different spiritual successors, emphasizing 2 unique elements of the escape sequence in the last 2 and a little years: Pizza Tower and AntonBlast. Pizza Tower has the same out and back stage setup as Wario Land 4, but Pizza Tower's escape sequence focuses on mastery of the controls. Once you find Pillar John and take him out, you'll enter Pizza Time. Like Wario Land, you've gotta book it back to the start before the timer runs out. The path back might be very different though. Some new routes and shortcuts might open up to you along the way. Peppino is much faster than Wario, and the escape feels much more frantic and exciting. The game plays up the mad dash chaotic race back to the finish, way more than Wario Land, and its slippery, yet responsive, yet slippery movement controls back up the challenge. If the timer runs out, you're not quite dead yet. The game's villain, Pizza Face, will awaken and chase after you. If he catches you, it's game over. But if you can dodge him, or just outrun him, you can still make it out. You should have time to spare. Maybe even enough time to take on the game's biggest challenge, Lap 2. Instead of leaving, you can enter the pizza portal, get taken back to where Pillar John was, and have to race your way to the finish all over again. There's no timer extension, but if you're fluent enough in the game's controls, you can make it out of there alive. And maybe with an enormous combo. Pizza Tower's Lap 2 is an amazing risk-reward call the player has to make, all while the timer's ticking away. The game is built to recognize not only the efficient movement to get to the end twice in the time limit, but to have the perfect execution to get there without getting hit much. Even if you're not going for top scores, there's a thrill in knowing that you could play it safe, but you're choosing to put it all on the line again to prove your skill. It's not at all a required part of the game, but it's a great way to raise the skill ceiling. But what about AntonBlast? AntonBlast has an escape sequence that plays up the spectacle of it all. The game sticks a little closer to the Wario Land style than Pizza Tower does, but it's definitely more bombastic. Tons of explosions, and like twice the amount of screen shake is recommended, but you can turn that off if it's too much. The escape is called Happy Hour, and it's more focused on the set pieces of each level. Every corner of the stage is exploding and falling apart. But each happy hour has its own unique gimmick that comes into play too. The first level has a bunch of minor villains crashing through the stage on a blimp, chasing you down and causing a ton of chaos. Another level might have walls trying to crush you in each room. Another stage based on liminal space will throw you into a maze of endless doors and try to fake you out with a false exit. Where Pizza Tower's escape sequence lets players show off their mastery, AntonBlast shows off its unique settings that complement the frantic gameplay while making each stage feel like its own thing. These 6 platformers demo how the feeling of a game can change as you make the timer more and more prominent in the design. From ignorable, to tangible but not that big of a deal, to a driving force, to a crazy set piece that contains its own unique gameplay. If you're building a game with a timer, it's up to you to decide how much of a centerpiece it will be. Timers create limits. Limits create puzzles. Does that mean that timers can create puzzles? Yes. Lots of games sprinkle in interesting puzzle elements with a timer. Minit is a quirky top-down Zelda-like indie game with one little time twist. After finding a cursed sword on a beach, you're now stuck living through a 1-minute timer, where if it hits 0, you die, and respawn at the last house you visited. You get to keep items between lives, and your quest progress is saved, but you'll need to work quickly to advance. The game is a constant puzzle. You can't extend the time limit, so you have to figure out what short-term goals you can accomplish in 60 seconds. Over time, you'll gain a sense of how long something might take, and whether you'll be able to do it, or if you'll have to find a way to divide your big goal into smaller ones. Small goals can unlock things that let you complete larger goals. You can open up shortcuts to travel further on the next run. You might be able to upgrade your tools to better traverse the world. The devs have built tons of puzzles that play with your expectations about what you can do in a minute. Like if you need to wade in quicksand to sink down into an underground area, or walk down a long, winding path. Some tasks reward spending a little time over lots of cycles, like taking the time to water this plant outside your yard for an eventual health upgrade. The game plays with these limits for comedy too, like when you have to spend a whole cycle speaking with an old guy that takes way too long to get to the point. The game asks you to figure out for yourself what to dedicate a cycle to, and what you can do to turn an impossible goal into something you can tackle. The way the game keeps to its 1-minute format is a hint by itself. It helps encourage you that it can be done, no matter how impossible it may seem at the start. Once you solve a few, the quick iteration time, and the satisfaction of coming up with a solution that works makes the game pretty addicting. It's very much a just one more turn kind of thing. The game's unique experience is only possible thanks to the limits imposed by the timer. So we've seen timers as game enders, as pressure cookers, as centerpieces, and as puzzles. But there's one series I love whose time limits do all of that at once, and game by game keeps tweaking exactly how its timers operate, and in the process completely changes how players approach each entry. It's time to talk about Pikmin. Pikmin isn't just about weird bugs on a weird planet, it's about planning your day, planning it efficiently with the limited time you have, figuring out how to best spend your time so you can do everything you want to do. There's a Japanese word for it, dandori, the art of preparation and strategic execution. The joy of playing Pikmin is the joy of dandori, the details, the sequence of tasks you decide on, the ability to bring the right tools to the right job to complete it efficiently. Those are the bits of gameplay that Pikmin excels at, and it's been the core of the series since the beginning. In Pikmin 1, Captain Olimar's ship done blowed the f*** up. But it's okay, because you can gather all the pieces back together and be on your way again. Your suit's life support system only has 30 days of juice left though, so that's the hard time limit. You have 30 days to get 25 parts, including the worst chair you've ever seen, back together. So, with 30 days and 25 parts, you don't have a ton of time to spare. Gather up at least one part per day, with a little bit of wiggle room allowed while you get your bearings, or if the unfortunate should happen. That's time limit 1. Beyond that, each day runs on a timer as well. There's only so much daylight and the surface of the planet isn't safe at night. That's time limit 2. If your Pikmin are not with you, or near the ships by sundown, you'll lose them to the horrors. With 2 strict time limits running, your day-to-day decisions really do feel like they matter. The routes you take to equipment, the way you divide up your Pikmin workforce, the order in which you take on tasks, it all adds up, and careful planning will let you get way more done in a given day, and keep you ahead of that 30-day deadline. The work you have to do to safeguard your ability to do future work is part of the fun. Even little things like rounding up all your Pikmin as the day is about to end can be thrilling. Don't leave anyone behind, they might save you tomorrow. Not having to rebuild your supply of Pikmin can have ripple effects on what you will be able to do in future days. This planning that lets you plan for future planning is the core loop of Pikmin. Pikmin 2's premise isn't nearly as dire as 1. Instead of being stranded with a broken ship, Olimar is looking for treasure with his co-worker, Louie, so they can earn cash and pay off a debt. This planet has some treasure on the surface, but there's a lot more in the underground caves. Find $10,000 dues worth of stuff, and y'all can get out of here. This game doesn't have nearly the time pressure as the first one. There's actually no deadline. Sure, if you take forever, you'll start to get some emails from your boss about how he's getting hounded by loan sharks, but that's his problem. You can take as many days as you want to pay it off. If you think that's still too much pressure, don't worry, time doesn't pass at all while you're exploring a cave, and that's like 80% of where the game happens. You can jump in and out of multiple caves on the same day and clear them all in one go. The daily timer really only comes into play when you're clearing the path to a cave, or when you're collecting the small handful of treasures on the surface. Series producer Takashi Tezuka said in an interview that the removal of the time limit was mainly done to increase the game's length and to give the player a much greater level of freedom to focus on whatever they wanted to do, and play at their own pace. Those are totally valid goals, and removing that time pressure does just that. You have full control of how fast or slow you want to tackle the game. With that change, you don't feel the need to be as efficient as in Pikmin 1. Quickly getting through Pikmin 2 feels way more like you're doing it for your own sake, instead of the game pushing you to play a specific way. But as the time pressure goes down, so does the game's challenge. In Pikmin 1, the cost of losing your Pikmin was mostly in the amount of time lost, from not only the failed encounter, but also the amount of time spent rebuilding to try again. Pikmin 2 drops that element entirely. That makes for a much easier base game, and the devs compensate by pushing the encounter toughness way up. Plenty of enemies now have instant kill hazards, like electricity, rolling stones, or explosives, which can wipe out your whole squad too. The dangers can appear right next to each other. Dodging 2 threats at once is something you'll have to deal with. Tiny mistakes can snowball, kill off dozens of Pikmin, and force you to regroup. Though, without the pressing time limit, the tougher encounters and unforgiving enemies can only raise the stakes so much. There's no time pressure, so losing time is not a problem. You'll always have time to rebuild and try again if you can't stand to roll with the losses. And you can always restart the game and reset the floor all the way. Pikmin 2 may be tougher to 100% complete, but the timer really did add pressure to the first game's critical path, and removing it creates an overall much easier game. Okay, Pikmin 3. What are we doing for this one? The first game's timer is too rigid. The second game's timer is gone, but some of the game's drive and challenge goes with it. Let's see if we can dial it in here. In Pikmin 3, you're a trio of explorers on a mission to, let's see here, feed your entire starving planet with alien fruit. This Pikmin lore's going places. Now, your food supplies are the timer. If a day ends with no supplies left, it's game over, and you have to rewind to a previous day to try again. With each fruit you collect, you get to keep a cut for yourself. On paper, this is a cool way to reintroduce the time deadline. It's not a hard day limit, it's an adjustable one. Tezuka's original objection to the 30-day limit is still addressed. You're still able to play at your own pace. Just once in a while, go pick up some fruit while you're out to keep adding time. You could paint yourself into a corner, I guess, if you spent 99 days and exhausted every fruit in the game. If that happens, I don't know what to tell you. Dandori issue. But that structure is part of the problem. Getting ahead of your juice use is barely a challenge. You'll have more than you'll realistically ever need pretty quick. The critical path is paved with fruit. Like we said before, this is what happens when the timer is too lenient. The tension of the ticking clock dissolves, and then all you have left is some more numbers on screen to ignore. There's even a bit about halfway through where your supplies get stolen, and it briefly gets a hint of tension back, but don't worry, it'll be gone again soon. It's really too bad. Your trio of captains can command 3 different squads at once and switch between them at will, allowing you to work while another group walks to their next task. You can get a ton more done at once, and the skill ceiling of speed and efficiency skyrockets. But to complete the game, you'll never need to scratch the surface of half of the stuff that's possible. But it's completely reasonable for a game designed for players of all ages to have a simple critical path. If you want more, that's what mission mode is for. New to the third game are all these challenge stages, where the goal is to collect everything on the map or clear out enemies within a time limit. This is my favorite part of Pikmin. Rack up a score and put it on the leaderboard. Doing tasks one at a time won't get you anywhere. The hard timer forces you to Dandori your pants off, dividing up work and planning out routes to complete objectives. Once you play it a few times, the push to improve can make the timer go from seeming oppressive to actually pretty generous, once you know what you're doing. This right here, this is some great Pikmin. But it's not the last Pikmin. Now, Pikmin IV. The setup this time is that you're part of a rescue team responding to a distress signal sent by Captain Olimar, who has become stranded on planet PNF 404 for the 4th time in 5 games. The other one was Hey Pikmin. You search for Olimar while gathering treasures and rescuing any other castaways you stumble across. This planet's become a Bermuda Triangle for tourists. Pikmin 4 is really just car crashing the other 3 games into each other at this point. The cave exploration is back from 2, but the treasure you collect now fuels your escape instead of paying your boss's debt. Along the way, you'll encounter special challenge caves they now literally call Dandori challenges, which are modeled after the mission mode stages from 3. You team up with your rescue dog Ochi, who is now both your second captain to command, like you would have in 2 and 3, and a large adult Pikmin in his own right. There's still no hard deadline for how many days you can spend planetside. At first. Once you save Olimar, you can listen to his side of the story, Olimar's shipwreck tale, as an extra campaign that's more or less a mini Pikmin 1 campaign. 15 days to find 30 ship parts. Really, no matter what mode or restriction you loved from the earlier games, you got it in here. Pressure or no pressure. Harsh limits or soft ones. Challenging strategic action or a chill, cozy game. It's all here for all players. In a world where you can't really predict what your players want to be, maybe it makes sense to try to be all things to all people. If you can manage that, you're golden. That is, if you can. So that's all of them. All the time limits in games. No, we did not mention Majora's Mask, SteamWorld Heist 2, Outer Wilds, Unsighted, Dead Rising, Tony Hawk, Amogus, King's Quest IV, every Metroid, Half Minute Hero, or Katamari. That's where you come in. That's what comments are for. Have you seen how long this episode is already? No, I couldn't have cut down the Pikmin segment. What are you talking about? You're crazy. Great time limits are more than a countdown to zero. They're a tool for pressure. Figure out where, when, and how hard to push your players, and you can make everyone have a good time.